there's three components here that you brought up. One is being able to increase the amount of nutrient density that we would be consuming, would be reducing the amount of toxicity in the body. And you brought up another point of getting to the body to a place where it naturally craves the right amount of calories, where it naturally craves you being in a healthy position. So what are ways to increase nutrient density? What are ways, just a few of them, to decrease toxicity? And how long does it take before you get the body to a place where it is craving a normal amount of calories?
Great questions. And the answer to the question is I'll answer the end part first, which it could take people 3 to 6 months, but usually closer to 6 months, not 3 months.
Okay.
Because so it takes a long time, particularly when people are overweight, burning up so much body, needing to lose so much weight.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about the concept of true hunger, instinctual hunger that happens in your upper part of your chest right here. And it takes, and I published a study on, I think it was about 700 people in the study. The study was called The Changing Perception of Hunger on a High Nutrient Density Diet, that tracked people's sensation of hunger from when they used to compare to what they ate before to when they started eating this healthy Nutritarian diet, how their perception and feeling of hunger changed from stomach fluttering or cramping and headaches and fatigue and agitation, weakness, which go away. And now hunger is in your bottom part of your neck and the upper part of your throat. And it's associated with increased salivation and a heightened taste sensation. But so generally,
it should be true hunger or not true hunger?
True hunger is felt here. Okay. That's true hunger. Fake hunger, because what happens is people's body are so toxic that the minute they stop digesting food, they're not hungry yet. They just stop digesting. They just finished the digestive process. Their glycogen stores are filled to the brim. But as soon as they stop digesting, and the liver goes into enhanced ability to detoxify or remove toxins. When you are nutritionally insufficient and overly toxic, you don't feel well in the non-digestive state. In the heightened phase of detoxification, your body starts to feel fatigue or shaky or agitated, or headachy, or stomach fluttering or cramping. You start to go through increased detox or withdrawal symptoms, and eating again relieves that. So people mistakenly think fatigue and headache and stomach fluttering and cramping, they mistakenly think those symptoms are hunger because they're relieved by eating. And they have to overeat calories they have to eat continually to keep them from feeling those uncomfortable sensations. So now they're disconnected between the real symptoms of hunger. Once you achieve nutritional adequacy and your body is able to reduce its level of retained metabolic waste, including reactive oxygen species and advanced glycation end products, and a lot of toxins are internally produced by the own body, such as urea, ammonia, formaldehyde. We produce a lot of metabolic toxins that make us feel sickly if we don't have nutrients to deal with those toxins. So what I'm saying right now is that you have to get very healthy to desire less food. You have to eat very healthy to feel that 400 to 500 calorie meals are satisfying, because people need 600 to 1,000 calorie meals to be satisfying. And they're not even satisfied with that because they're become habituated to the caloric rush. In other words, when you're eating foods like high glycemic carbohydrates, like honey, maple syrup, sugar, and white flour, and I'm saying white flour is a sugar equivalent because it converts into flour. The flour converts into sugar very, very rapidly and enters the bloodstream as a bolus of sugar. So there's no a biochemical difference for eating a piece of white bread and eating a piece of cake or eating sugar right from a bowl. You're eating sweets, and they flood the body with glucose. That amount of glucose flooding in the bloodstream, it rushes into the bloodstream. The medical term is a glycemic load. The glycemic load is high. And when you eat oil, like olive oil or animal fats for that matter, you can rush fat into the bloodstream. You can have a load of fat in your bloodstream. You can put 200 calories of sugar into the bloodstream, no big deal, in 5 minutes. You could put 200, 300 calories of oil in the bloodstream, no big deal, in 5 minutes. And that caloric rush acts on the brain to change the neuroplasticity and we rewire the brain and change the opiate or dopaminergic centers of the brain to become habituated to the stimulation of excessive calories. And now you feel empty. You can eat. I can serve you a bowl of vegetable bean soup and a salad with a sesame cashew dressing and a couple of pieces of fruit for dessert. But that's not going to satisfy you because there's not enough caloric rush. You need that extra calories in the bloodstream. You got to have some French fries, a glass of soda, some ice cream, some pizza, some chocolate chip cookies, something to put a higher caloric rush in the bloodstream. Because even though you ate a good, nice meal, you're not going to feel like you're satisfied until you have that hit to the brain, because the brain now has become needy for the overstimulation. So what I'm saying here is that this takes time for people to change this rewiring of the brain. And this is why people fail on diets, because they don't pay attention to nutritional excellence that you need to detoxify and get rid of enough toxins for the body to be in touch now instinctually with real hunger and lose the desire for toxic hunger to overeat to deal with the withdrawal symptoms. And you asked me as part of the question, well, how do you get rid of the toxins and what foods do you eat? And the answer is, well, the same foods that fight cancer and prevent diabetes and extend human lifespan aid in the body's detoxification mechanisms and repair mechanisms and activate the ARE, the antioxidant response element in the cell that's responsible for keeping the cells clean. And the primary activator of the NRF2 transcription factors, which activate the ARE, are green vegetables. And probably the most powerful activator are green cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. I always say that
sprouts are so powerful.
If you don't like green vegetables, you better live close to a hospital, because we are a green vegetable dependent animal. And that, I consider even lettuce, even simple lettuce, a superfood, because lettuce is no oxalic acid. The calcium is purely absorbable. And it's nature's richest source of sulfoquinavose, which is the fuel to fuel the health of the healthy bacteria in the gut. You combine that with, like you're saying, with broccoli sprouts or arugula or bok choy or watercress or cabbage. You mix the lettuce with some cruciferous greens. And by the way, you absorb 20 to 50 times as much of the nutrients if you eat it with nuts and seeds to get the fat in the same meal. See, a Nutritarian diet is different from a standard diet. The standard diet gets its fat from animal fats and oils, and a Nutritarian diet gets its fat from nuts and seeds and avocados, not from animal fats and oils. The fat present in the meal is important for absorption of phytochemicals and detoxification. But keep in mind, when you eat fat from a nut or a seed, like a sesame seed or a walnut, the fats are absorbed into the bloodstream so slowly that you only put 1 or 2 calories in the blood per minute. That means you only put 10 calories of fat in the blood. Your body can now preferentially burn that for energy, not store it as fat. When you have a tablespoon of olive oil, you just put 200 calories of fat in the blood. And your insulin resistance, because the hallmark of long life of all healthy centenarians is being insulin sensitive and requiring only small amounts of insulin to lower blood sugar. When you're overweight, fat on the body blocks the uptake of insulin. And so the beta cells have to produce more insulin to get the sugar down. So all overweight people are hormonally challenged because they're all pre-diabetic, even if they're not diabetic yet, because they all have excess insulin.
Yeah.
But fat in the blood also blocks the uptake of insulin. So when you put oil on your food, you not only are becoming insulin resistant from the fat on your body, but now the fat in the meal is making you insulin resistant, and the body produces more fat storage hormones to try to get the fat out of the blood. But in any case, I'm saying here that when you switch from oil to nuts, you don't make yourself more insulin resistant because you don't get that many calories of fat in the bloodstream because the calories are absorbed too slowly. Just like when you switch from white bread to lentils or beans and you get the carbohydrate from a bean, it's absorbed so slowly into the bloodstream over hours that you're only putting a few calories a minute in the blood rather than putting 100 calories a minute. So the bean doesn't require a huge insulin response, because even though you're putting 200 calories in, you're taking 3 hours to get those 200 calories in, not 3 minutes to get those 200 calories in. So you require a huge amount of hormonal effects to get the calories out of the blood. But all those calories in the blood, of course, then make you into a calorie-consuming monster, because now you're a food addict from the caloric rush.